35 miles east of Phoenix, Arizona, Apache Junction crowds against the base of the superstitions. Here modern-day searchers come to separate truth from fiction. Did Jacob Walzer really exist? The answer is yes. He is buried in the Phoenix Pioneer Cemetery, Lot 19, Grave 4. And documents exist bearing his signature. We asked Jim Williams, editor of Treasure magazines, to assess the lost Dutchman mine.
As a treasure tale, I'd rate it quite highly, maybe around 7 or so, because it's such an interesting historical mystery. There are certainly numerous theories. One is that the Dutchman happened upon a cache of gold left by some Mexican miners. Some people say the cache was left because of a massacre, an Indian attack upon the Mexicans. The Dutchman may have happened upon that in the Superstition Mountains. Another theory is that instead of finding a cache of their gold, he found one of their gold mines, which some people have said there are as many as 8, others as many as 18. Another theory is that he wasn't actually working in the superstitions themselves. He was working in a plain below the superstitions around an area now called Goldfield, which there is documentation to show that quite a bit of gold has come out of that area. And the idea is that the Dutchman was high-grading it out of some of those mines, and then to throw off suspicion was hauling his gold through the Superstition Mountains, coming out the other side, and that's where people got the idea he was actually finding it in the Superstition.
We asked Jim about the famous Adolph Ruth story.
Yeah, Adolph Ruth may have been the person most responsible, even more than the Dutchman, for the fame of the Dutchman. Up until Ruth came along in 1931, very few people knew about the lost Dutchman mine or tale outside of Phoenix and the narrow confines of Phoenix.
Adolph Ruth left his Washington, D.C. home on May 4th, 1931, and made his way to Phoenix, Arizona. Ruth made no secret that he possessed a treasure map and was in quest of the lost Dutchman mine. Whether this indiscretion laid the framework for what happened next, no one knows. We do know that on June 13, 1931, Ruth packed into the superstitions at the wrong time of the year. For by June, temperatures can reach 110 degrees in the shade, and sources of water are few and far between. But like treasure hunters before and since, Ruth defied the obstacles of nature and set out to find the fabulous lost Dutchman mine. Somewhere in the vastness of the superstitions. When Ruth failed to return, the Maricopa and Pinal County sheriffs organized a search party. And on December 11th, Richie Lewis's dog, named Old Music, found the skull of Adolph Ruth. A month later, searchers found Ruth's body, a mile from where his skull had been discovered. Then on November 15, 1938, a sheriff's posse recovered the body of Guy Hematite Frink, who died of gunshot wounds. James Cavey was next. He was found rolled in a rope-tied blanket. His head, like Ruth's, was separated from his body. Then in February 1951, searchers found the body of Doc Burns, shot through the stomach. A year later, Joseph H. Kelly of Dayton, Ohio, went into the mountains. When he didn't return in 17 days, the sheriff's office launched a search. To this day, no one has found a trace of Joseph H. Kelly. In 1954, the curse of the Dutchman struck again. On May 27th, prospectors returning from a search for the lost Dutchman found a human skull in the superstitions. Charles Massey was next. On February 25th, 1955, His body was found, shot square between the eyes with a heavy caliber rifle. On February 13, 1956, Norman L. Teason found remains thought to be those of Martin Zawotho from Brooklyn. He was also shot in the head. Who was responsible for the killings? Local rancher and author Barney Bernard had some theories which he passed along in an interview before his death in 1963.
My name is Barney Bernard. I have lived in the shadow of this famous Superstition Mountain for more than 50 years. During that time, it has been my misfortune to accompany the posse and help to bring out the bodies of 15 prospectors who have been killed in their search for this fabulous, wealthy, lost Dutchman mine. Who the killers are, we do not know. We do know, however, that the Apache claim that this gold was put there by the thunder god of the mountain for them to use only in time of need. We also know that there is never a second when there aren't at least 2 Apache on guard.
Ron Feldman was another who succumbed to the lure of fabulous wealth at the end of the trail leading to the lost Dutchman mine. So he packed up his car, talked his brother into going with him, and headed for Arizona to hunt for the Dutchman.